The NBA Draft is one of the most exciting events of the year for basketball fans, especially those who like teams that are currently near the bottom of the standings, because it gives those fans a first look into their team's futures, with incoming young talent buzzing with potential. Obviously, at the time of the draft, there's endless speculation and predictions being made about how well the rookies will fit into their new teams and which teams came away with the best picks, but nothing can really be certain until we see them play on the court. Now, with the end of the class of 2023's rookie seasons coming to an end in about a week, it's time to take a look back and grade each pick made in the lottery 1 year later, based on how well those players have performed, if the teams could have done better with their selection in that range, and what the fit is like long term. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting with the San Antonio Spurs, first pick Victor Wembanyama, the grade here 1 year later is a strong A+. Listen, this one is as cut and dry as it gets. Wembanyama was seen as the prize of the draft throughout the entire draft process beforehand. The Spurs won the lottery and made the no-brainer decision to take him. Since then, he's experienced some normal rookie growing pains, but overall is looking like the kind of talent who could one day be the best player in the entire NBA, and throughout the course of his rookie season, he's done things very few rookies have ever done while breaking shot-blocking records in the process. Wembanyama is a star in the making, and the Spurs found their franchise cornerstone for the foreseeable future. Next is number 2 pick Brandon Miller of the Hornets, and the grade here is an A-. After Wembanyama was off the board, this is where the real debate began, and while Miller wasn't the favorable pick at the time, he has easily proven to be the favorable pick over the course of this rookie season. From the jump, he was looking ready to make an instant impact as a two-way wing that could space the floor and move well off the ball, but the Hornets started to deal with a ton of injuries, so he was thrust into more of a go-to scoring role earlier than anticipated, yet actually handled it quite well for a rookie. On the year as a whole, he put up 17 points per game on slightly above average shooting splits, and since the midway point of January, he's actually been a 20-point per game scorer. Next is third pick Scoot Henderson of the Trailblazers, and the grade here is a C+. Scoot Henderson came into the league with lofty expectations, but after getting off to an incredibly rough start to the year, feelings seemed to sour on him quickly for many. By no means did he have an objectively good rookie season, but I also don't think he was nearly as bad as many made it out to be either, and it's important to remember that like 99% of rookie guards are pretty bad in their first seasons too. Scoot was still the third leading scorer in this rookie class, putting up 13.3 points per game, and while he does need to be much more efficient in the future, he did progressively get better as the season went on. Up next is fourth pick Amon Thompson of the Rockets, and the grade here is a B-. Amon Thompson is another exciting young guard that started the year very slowly, but over time really started to emerge in the second half of the season. He was placed into the starting lineup in early February because he's already a pretty solid perimeter defender, he's a rebounding machine for a guard, and his ability to finish in the paint is a very useful weapon for the Rockets offensively. He desperately needs to work on his jumper this summer though, because he shot just 14% from 3, but overall, he makes a positive impact on both ends, he's a pretty good playmaker, and is a prime breakout candidate for next year. Next up is fifth pick Assar Thompson of the Pistons, and the grade here is a C. Thompson actually had the opposite trajectory of his brother Amon this season. He started the year blisteringly hot on the defensive side of the ball, ranking near the top of the whole league in blocks plus steals per game in the first month of the year, but over time he cooled off a bit and his struggles offensively started to overshadow that. Assar is also a worryingly bad shooter who shot just 18% from 3 this season. He's not much of a passer compared to his brother, and he put up 8.8 points per game, which left a lot to be desired on a Pistons team with plenty of opportunity to stand out. Up next is sixth pick Anthony Black of the Magic, and the grade here is a C-. It's hard to give Anthony Black a grade because he's filled in where he's been necessary, he's been efficient, he makes smart decisions on both ends, but he also doesn't necessarily produce all that much, and has had a pretty quiet rookie season. On the year, he's averaging fewer than 5 points per game, and that's while starting half of the games that he's played in, mostly because he's a good defender. It's now looking like he's being phased out of the team's rotation as the playoffs approach, so he's got a lot to work on for next year to get back on track. Next up is 7th pick Bilal Coulibaly of the Washington Wizards, and the grade here is a C. This was a class filled with wing players that quietly flashed potential as two-way talent through their inconsistencies, and Coulibaly was no different. Overall, he uses his length well, and he's a willing and able shooter from the perimeter, but scoring 8 points per game, shooting the ball 34% from the three-point line, is about as mediocre as it gets for a rookie season, so the grade here reflects that. Up next is 8th pick Jarris Walker of the Pacers, and the grade here is a D. Walker has gotten legitimate run in a few games this season, but for the most part he's only been able to get run in garbage time or the G League. Of course, the Pacers are a team in playoff contention and have their sights fully set on winning now, so unfortunately Walker's development hasn't been the utmost priority, but he's done well in the G League and still has a long career ahead of him, so it's not an F. Next is 9th pick Taylor Hendricks of the Jazz, and the grade here is a B-. Hendricks was actually in a similar predicament to Walker for the first half of the season, but he stayed patient, continued to work hard behind the scenes, and in the last few months has actually been starting games for the Jazz and giving them good minutes. As a starter this year, he's averaging about 10 points and 6 rebounds per game on the wing, knocking down 38% of his threes, which is solid momentum to build on going into his second season next year. Up next is 10th pick Cas Wallace of the Thunder, and the grade here is another B-. Wallace came to the Thunder this year, the year they finally took the leap into contender status, so they were all in on winning, and he still proved to be deserving of a consistent role in the rotation, because from day one, he provided a skill set that actually impacted winning with them. He's a smart guard that knows his role and sticks to it, handling secondary playmaking, letting his shots come to him naturally within the flow of the offense, and converting efficiently, making 50% of his shots and 42% of his threes, albeit on lesser volume. Next is 11th pick Jet Howard of the Magic, and the grade here is an F. This was a highly questionable selection even at the time of the draft, and looking back a year later, it's still highly questionable now. He's only appeared in 14 games this season, spending most of his time down in the G League, and he really hasn't shown enough there to justify taking him in the lottery. Up next is 12th pick Derek Lively of the Mavericks, and the grade here is a B+. The Mavericks have been in desperate need of a reliable interior presence for a while, and Lively came in as a rookie and helped out in that regard big time. He's been a perfect pick-and-roll partner for Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, he's already a good shot blocker, and he rebounds well in the minutes that he gets off the bench too. Next up is 13th pick Grady Dick of the Raptors, and the grade here is a C. Dick was drafted in the lottery because he was viewed as the sharpshooter of this year's draft class at the time. He has good size for a shooting guard and a confident stroke, but he wasn't really much of a sharpshooter in year one, knocking down just 36% of his threes, which is much closer to average. And finally, the last one up is 14th pick Jordan Hawkins of the Pelicans, and the grade here is a C+. Hawkins is a pure scoring combo guard by nature who subs in off the bench and tries to ignite the offense with his shot creation. He's had quite a few standout performances this year overall, but like most young scoring guards, he was pretty inefficient and inconsistent, and now with the Pelicans bunkering down for a playoff run, his minutes are being reduced dramatically. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these rookies 1 year later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.